Want to let you know that the Doane Athletic Hall of Fame was established in 1996 to honor and preserve the memory of athletes, teams, and coaches at Doane University. In addition, we added a category for meritorious service in 2023. Before we get too far into the program, I want to thank a plethora of people who assisted me in putting this event together. I want to thank the staff from Fresh Ideas if they are just around the corner. Some of you have met Chef Shaq, Shaquille Butters, and if the folks from Fresh Ideas are around or can hear me through the door, if you guys would step in, we would like to recognize them. So Chef Shaq, Ashley, and Victoria. So I know that they're busy doing other things. They were out here, and when they step back in, I will recognize them again. So thanks to Fresh Ideas. The events and registration team, Cassidy, who did registration for me, very much appreciated. Patty and Bella from events. Haley Carpenter, who designed the invitations and programs and arranged for the printing of all materials for this event. The President's Office, represented here tonight. Want to thank the Advancement Office for the mailing query. Very much appreciated. My great friend down here, Assistant Athletic Director for Sports Information, Rick Schmecker. Rick provided most of the information for and the sending of the bios used for the press releases in the program. This induction ceremony is being recorded for later viewing on YouTube or another platform. Rick, I just want to tell you that Mark Wragge told me he loves that picture that you have in the montage of him, number 51. So good job on that. He said he'd never seen that picture before, but anyway, our maintenance department, Perry Campus Center custodial staff, our service center, Ryan Dorhorst, and crew and Ted were here in the afternoon spending about an hour and a half getting all the media needs ready for this. Our IT staff, Amos Joseph, who is shortly going to add the bios of the 2026 inductees to the Athletic Hall of Fame kiosk in the lobby of the Haddock Center. Sochi and her staff at the corner liquor store downstairs for the cash bar at the reception will restart when we're done with the induction ceremony here about 9:30. Go downstairs to the cash bar once again. Our inductees, the 5 folks pictured on the monitors, a great group to work with, and we're looking forward to honoring you. I want to introduce some very special people at this time, and if you would please stand, I'd like to introduce Laura Hughes, wife of President Roger Hughes. Thank you, Laura. Not sure if we have, I know we have some board members here. Doane Board of Trustees members, if you would please stand. I know that COP is here. Other board members. Thanks, COP. Thank you, my friend. We have a wonderful board at Doane, by the way. I think everybody knows that. Thank you, Craig, for being here tonight. Current Athletic Hall of Fame members, the classes of 1996 through 2025. Please stand and remain standing, if you would. Joe, you can stand too because you got in last year. Go ahead and stand. So you guys stand and remain standing because I hate events where they kind of just don't take the time to recognize very special people in their Hall of Fame. And I want you to remain standing because I want you to know who these folks are in our Athletic Hall of Fame. Katie Cosmos Hanquist, Ed Hubbs, our current tennis coach, men's and women's. Closest to me is Coach Dave Ziola, who was inducted 3 years ago. Marty Fye, Joe Wharton, Coach Dave Dunnigan, Coach Ed Fye, Coach Cindy Meyer. Who am I missing that is in our Hall of Fame who was in that particular class? I think I got everybody. So let's give them a big round of applause. Honor D Award recipients. If you have won an Honor D award, if you would please stand. Ken and Tammy Marvin, Roger Hughes. Who else? Craig too, yeah. Craig's one of those guys, he's like shell straight. He can just keep standing for about 15 minutes because he's in so many different groups. Thank you, Cop. Thank you, Cop. Thanks to all of you and congratulations. Family members who are representing our legendary coaches, and I will have them stand. Our legendary coaches get emotional every time. Tonight's no exception. Coach Al Papik and Coach Bob Erickson, represented by Jim and Marta Erickson Papik and Jonathan Papik, if you guys would please stand. Legendary coach Fred Biley, represented by his wife Esther, who's right down here. Let's give Esther a round of applause. Yeah. Esther, you don't have to stand. We all know you and we love you. You don't have to stand. You do not have to stand. We are so delighted that you come each and every year, and thanks, Z and Sandy, for making sure that happens. Our Vice President of Athletics, Mark Wragge, and his wife, Kim, over here at the President's table. Our Vice President of Advancement and Athletic Hall of Fame member, Marty Fye. Marty. All of our coaches at Doane, would you please stand? Our current coaches at Doane, stand and remain standing. So, don't sit down. Do not sit down. Jim Papik, assistant men's golf. Ed Fye, head track and field coach. Josh Oltmans, standing back there, the winningest baseball coach in the history of Doane University, our current head baseball coach. Over here we have a number. We have Ian McKeithen, men's basketball. Ben Barrickman, you guys can wave. Ben Barrickman, strength and conditioning. Jonathan Johnson, football. Dallas Tidwell, football. Zach Ellison, football. Coach Ed Hubbs, track, actually not track, tennis. But I messed that up. But Ed, you told me when you were recruited here from Dixon, Illinois, that Trav didn't recruit you, but was it Coach Papik? Coach Papik, of course, we had that connection to Dixon, Illinois, and that's where Ed was from and came here and is in our Hall of Fame. Best tennis player ever at Doane, is now our coach giving back to Doane University. Last but not least, our loyal volunteers who assist us at our athletic events, whatever that may be. So I know we've got some people. Dan, if you would stand. Ron, other people who just help us at home athletic events. You are very important to us. Ron, go ahead and stand if you would. We appreciate it. You help at track and field. Ron Safronic, Dan McElravy, and who am I missing? Okay, so I think we've got that taken care of. Continuing on, since we last met in 2025, we have lost no Doane Athletic Hall of Fame members. That's a blessing. We have so much to celebrate at Doane, and one of the reasons for that is our fifth-year president, Dr. Roger Hughes. I'm going to have President Hughes come forward for his address.
Thank you, Cody. And by the way, Cody is also in the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame voice, Cody Vance as well. From the class of 82, Ed Fye, class of 82, Roger Hughes, class of 82, probably the most prevalent class in the history of Tammy Marvin. Thank you very much. I apologize, Tammy. At times with Mama Gross were so fun, right? And Cody, what table are you sitting at? Right here? next time he comes back, would you tell him to finish that paper so he can finally graduate from this place? Okay, just it's okay to graduate. Anyway, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Doane. I'm Roger Hughes, as Cody said earlier, and I have the privilege of serving as president of Doane University, where we've been building leaders, and we've been doing it for over 150 years. Tonight's about celebrating excellence. If you ask a room of people who wants to be great, every hand goes up. But if you ask that same group of people who's willing to do what it takes to be great, far fewer hands remain raised. Everyone wants the outcome. Few embrace the discipline required to get there. Nick Saban puts it very simply. It comes down to two choices. There are things you know you should do, but you don't want to do. Can you make yourself do them? And they're the things that you know you shouldn't do, but you want to do. Can you keep yourself from doing them? If you can make those two choices every day, each day you'll get better and get closer to your goal. And you'll build and you'll build and you'll build, and finally you'll achieve that goal that you wanted. Tonight's inductees embody that self-discipline. Congratulations to basketball player Mark Wragge, 1993. I say 19 every chance I get now because I feel old when the 20 starts it. Football and baseball standout Anthony Dunn, class of 2012. Baseball manager Jeremy Jorgensen. And for the first time, a husband and wife inducted together. Volleyball player Susan Rollman Lindsley and her husband, weight thrower Zack Lindsley, both of the class of 13. And also, from last year's program, Joe Wharton, class of 1976, who received this award last year but could not make it. Welcome. We're finally excited to give you that award. If you haven't been back to Doane for a while, you'll notice we've been pretty busy. Last year, our athletic department ranked 16th in the country out of 172 NAI institutions. That's for overall excellence. It used to be called the Sears Cup, now it's called the Learfield Cup at the NAI level. This year, we're currently ranked 23rd, with room to climb as the spring results start to come in. We've celebrated numerous national and conference champions, along with athletes and coaches of the year. And for the first time in Doane's history, all 21 sports have a GPA over 3.0. For those keeping track, that was the first lip quiver. And I get emotional because it's important. And what we do here is important. And I give a lot of credit to that. In fact, all the credit to Mark Wragge, our athletic director, and all the coaches in this room that see that the athletes aren't just one-dimensional. They're multidimensional. The other thing we started 3 years ago, we set out to launch a $100 million campaign. It was ambitious and bold. But I'm proud to share that we've already raised, in less than 3 years, $86 million. That support is transforming this campus. We have a new residence hall, a new President's Home and Event Center. We've renovated this dining hall. We have a new Fine Arts and Performing Center that's set to open this spring and this fall. And we're also halfway to funding an innovation center that will bring business, engineering, AI, computer science, mathematics, and data analytics all in one area, an innovation center that will transform this university. None of this happens without you. Through your generosity, your advocacy, and your mentorship for our students. Recently, I was invited to participate in a discussion on higher ed at the Aspen Institute in Colorado. The facilitator asked a simple question. If you could build one thing that would make the world better, what would it be? And as others showed impressive ideas as they came around the table, I really didn't have an answer. But anytime I'm in that situation, I've always found if I speak from the heart is best. So he came to me, he said, and it was my turn, Roger, what would you do? And I said, I would teach people to build locker rooms. I got some puzzled looks and some snickers, also a few laughs, but I explained. I don't mean the physical locker room itself, and I certainly don't want the smell. What I meant was what a great locker room represents. It's a place where people unite around a shared goal. How many organizations are laser focused to defeating that opponent, easy for me to say, or accomplishing the mission of the goal of the organization. Where else are individuals willing to sacrifice personal recognition for team success? Where one group steps up when another one needs support. Where it's never about me, but it's about we. And just as important, it's a place where teammates love each other enough to tell the truth, to hold one another accountable. They step in when someone's struggling, and they show up for each other every time they're needed. Great locker rooms do all of that. The world would be better if we had organizations who operated like great locker rooms. I often wonder how many of us, once we graduate from Doane, spend our careers searching for the locker room like we had here. I've been fortunate enough to be able to build that kind of culture in some of the teams I've coached. And here at Doane, simply put, we're trying to make this entire university one big locker room. Thanks so much for being here. To our inductees, Joe, Mark, Anthony, Jeremy, Susan, and Zach, congratulations on this well-deserved honor. And to our alumni, welcome back to your locker room. Merrill will ring, go Tigers.
I would just echo what Roger mentioned. It's great to be here at Doane, and lots of great things are happening here. This is a wonderful place. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but it certainly is. Thank you, Roger. It's right at 8 p.m. Welcome again to the 2026 Doane University Athletic Hall of Fame event. This is the induction ceremony where our inductees are officially inducted into our university's Athletic Hall of Fame. Others will share with you some thoughts about each inductee, things not necessarily listed in the program. Here are the ground rules for the induction ceremony. These are usually never followed, but at least I put it out there. I will introduce each presenter who will come forward and share his or her thoughts about each inductee. Then the presenter will speak and then ask the inductee to come forward to receive the plaque up here on the stage, and a quick picture will be taken of the presenter and the inductee. I will hand the presenter the appropriate plaque over here. Okay? Then the presenter will exit, and each inductee will share his or her remarks. Inductees, you are welcome to introduce your immediate family members if you wish. We'll follow the same format for each individual inductee. But I need to go back a year to March of 2025. March 2025, I received this message from Joe Wharton, 2025 Doane Athletic Hall of Fame inductee. So we're bouncing back a year. Joe writes, "Hi, Cody. With great sadness, I won't be able to attend the ceremony tonight. As you know, I have been battling health problems for the past 2 months, and this afternoon of all days, I'm having an outpatient procedure, which my cardiologist says cannot wait. I tried to put it off. I'm disappointed, but not angry, because God is in control of my faith and will get me through all of this. I thank Coach Erickson, you and others for selecting me to the Doane Hall of Fame. I only wish I could be there in person, so if you can just Zoom or put me on a speakerphone, which we did, by the way, or have me listen in, I would really appreciate that a lot. To all my teammates, friends, fraternity members, brothers, other staff, I say thank you for all the wonderful time while at Doane University. Sincerely, Jumping Joe, 76. This was Joe's message to me last year when he was unable to attend. It's different this year. Joe is here in person, all the way from Chicago. He flew in today. That's awesome. He called me last night. I'm coming to Doane. I called Marta, and I said, I just got the best phone call ever. Joe's coming here. He's going to be here tomorrow. You'll find his laminated bio on each table. It's a vertical bio. We didn't do the entire program because the programs look very similar, and I didn't want there to be confusion, but you can find Joe's bio on each table. So it is my pleasure to introduce Marta Erickson Papik from the class of 1976. When we first started doing this a year ago, I asked Joe about his presenter, and we both agreed that Coach Erickson would have relished the opportunity. He then asked, well, what about Marta? I replied, I'll ask her. She was here last year. She's here again tonight. Marta, you come forward. This is going to be great.
It's a rewind. I have to say, last year, since Joe was not here, Cody made me stand with the Hall of Famers and hold Joe's plaque. And I received some interesting texts from my brothers saying, how did you get in the Hall of Fame? You're the one Erickson that's not an athlete. So anyway, this year you get to be in the picture, Joe. I'm honored to be introducing Joe Wharton to be inducted in the Doane Hall of Fame. But the person who should be introducing is Coach Erickson. Sadly, that can't happen, but I am thankful that God has blessed me with the opportunity to represent my dad. Cody mentioned that before Dad died, he shared that Joe deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. I know he'd be so proud of you, Joe. You are qualified to be a Hall of Famer, both for your accomplishments as an athlete at Doane and as a coach since leaving Doane. Jim and I had the blessing of meeting with Joe last August. Not only did we have a great time remembering our college days, but Joe shared what he's doing now as a counselor for displaced teens. As a coach, you have the ability to impact the lives of young people. Joe, in your present job, you are continuing to have that impact. You are a Hall of Famer. It's interesting that you tried the insurance business but missed coaching and returned to it. Coach Erickson had the same experience. When I was in 6th grade, we were set to move to Kearney. Dad was through coaching and going into insurance. At the last minute, he couldn't do it, and we stayed at Doane. One of Joe's teammates, Mark Kinney, could not be here tonight, but he wanted to share this story. I want to share a story with you that I know Joe won't remember. We were battling Hastings in the 3rd game of the best-of-3 series to see who would go to the NAIA Nationals in Kansas City in 1976. We were playing at Hastings, and the game was back and forth with the score. Then, with about 10 minutes left in the second half and down by a couple points, there was an offensive rebound that the Bigs were fighting for. Out of nowhere, Joe comes flying in, out jumps everyone, and with a look on his face that scared the daylights out of me, grabs a rebound and scores. That was the turning point in the game, when we ran away for a 19-point win and a trip to nationals. Joe was a great teammate and always kept the team focused in reaching our true potential, resulting in a memorable season. Ken Hamilton, a Doane grad, wrote a newspaper article about that same game. After the win, Coach Erickson was quoted, "We are a very emotional team," which makes sense since it was Dad, "and a lot of talking about being calm," said Doane coach Bob Erickson. "We shot the eyes out of the basket. This wasn't one of those games where somebody wanted to win more than the other." Erickson continued, "Both teams wanted this one a lot, and both played very hard. We had to overcome a lot of things to win this one," said Erickson. "But the big difference was the way we reacted to the technical foul tonight." Now, when I read that, my first thought, yep, Dad got a technical. Imagine that. That's not out of the ordinary. For him, of course. Then I read on. In Tuesday's game, Wharton was called for a technical foul late in the first half, and the Broncos closed to within 42-40 margin after trailing by 5. I think the technical foul helped us tonight, said Wharton, because it got us together for the second half. The Broncos finished their season 20-8, while the Tigers, with an identical record, will travel to Kansas City next Monday for the National NAIA tournament. Joe got the technical. Dad would have been so proud. When the Tigers got to KC for the NAIA tournament, Doane upset 12th-seeded Norfolk State. It was the first NAIA tourney win since 1945 for Doane. Yep, the Tigers beat Norfolk State, just like Florida did last year in the NC2A tournament. Joe, when I watched you play basketball, it reminded me of the Bible verse, Psalm 18:29. I can run through a troop, and by my God, I can leap over a wall. My brother Scott said you were his favorite player, Jumpin' Joe. Thanks for the memories. They were great. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, thank
There
you
you
very
go.
much.
That was good.
Okay, I think you heard enough about me, but I'll just tell you a few stories anyway. Okay? Um, you know my name, Joe Wharton. I'd just like to say God is good because I would not be here without Him helping me in my faith. And that's the truth. And He gave me an opportunity to stay here in this world long enough and to come back to Doane College, which it gives me chill bumps. It really does. I mean, this campus is amazing. Mr. President and everyone else, I just want to say that you're part of this and you will always be part of Doane. Doane College is a family, is a real family. That's why coaches never leave. They're still here. And that means something to me. But last year, I couldn't make it, and Cody, we talked on the phone and communicated with each other. And he said, there's no way you're not coming next year. I mean, this man, I could show you a bunch of texts and phone calls. You wouldn't believe it. So again, thank you, Cody, for your assistance in getting me back here again. I'm not going to talk long, but I do want to just say a few things, a few words about my journey here, being from Evanston, Illinois. If some of you don't know where that's at, that's where Northwestern University's at. And I didn't want to go there. I wanted to come to Doane. So, in speaking and saying things, I'm just proud that I did. But there's a story behind that when I came to Doane. As a 150-pound freshman, well, a lot more than that now, Coach Erickson He didn't play freshmen very much unless you were very good or deserved it. I'm not saying I was good because he taught me more than things about basketball. But I remember when I was playing a game, a JV game, and what he did. I was out there, and I said, I'm going to show this man that he's making a mistake if he doesn't put me on that varsity. And I mean, coach was just running up and down the sidelines. Did you see that? Did you see that? Look at that guy. I mean, no one was there at that JV game, but he was still cheering me on. And that's where I started as Jumpin' Joe again. So I really appreciate what Coach did. I'll tell you another story real quick here. It was almost every game he would grab my, it was almost like he hugged me, but he'd grab my shoulder and say, Joe, they're going to boo for you. They're going to boo at you when we were on the road. I said, what are you talking about? He said, that means that they like you. Okay? So pay no attention. Just keep playing. And that helped me. The championship game in Kansas City, after the Hastings game, we went there, and before the game, Coach said, I want you to do something. I said, what? Pass the ball. Pass the ball. Because the players know, just like she said, Mark said, if I got that rebound, I was gone. But that I did. I had more assists than points. I can tell you that now. But he was so right. We won the game because of that. My teammates were outstanding. Outstanding. Unbelievable. So moving on, I want to thank my family, sisters and brothers that supported me all through high school and college and still to this day. Once again, they call me Jumpin' Joe. I call myself Jumpless Joe, okay? I want to thank a mentor of mine when I came to Doane. He's sitting right here, Mr. Brayman Adams. And when I say mentor, I mean that because he was my freshman roommate. And I tell you, I would not be standing here to this day without him. Unbelievable. We stayed up to almost 2 in the morning, almost missed those 8 o'clock classes. He was just fantastic. In fact, I'll tell you one more story. He had a blue car, a road, whatever you call it, road runner. Thank you, Brayman. And he loved that car. But guess what? I came back to sophomore year to college, my sophomore year, and I bought and brought a blue car. Well, guess what? It was a station wagon with white walls on it because I couldn't afford anything else. And he named it. He said the Blue Goose. So, I mean, unbelievable. And then there's another person, Elaine. What a great friend. And I'll tell you a story. Her family, and when I say family, sisters and brothers that went here and parents took me in. Okay? They're from Omaha, and it was wonderful. And I appreciate that, Elaine. And then there's someone that graduated with me that came today. His name is Charlie West. And I'll let Charlie tell you down there what success he had here. But he's been a great friend ever since, and I appreciate that, Charlie. my immediate family, my sisters and brothers, like I said, supported me. And there's one thing that happened. I came to Doane, and my sister's name is Linda, and Elaine's brother, his name is Benny. Well, guess what? They've been married for 45 years. So how it happened was Benny decided to stay in Illinois for a job, okay, and in insurance. And I said, well, where you going to stay at? Well, I don't know. I said, you can stay with me in my apartment. So he did. And then I told him, well, I got 2 sisters. Well, he didn't know what that meant, but he had a choice. And he chose one. And it's been really great. So I want to acknowledge them too. I also want to say that my late wife was Linda, and she was wonderful. We were married for over 30 years. And my daughter, Erica, who was wonderful. I have 2 grandkids, Malik and Mary B., and they're doing very well. I want to acknowledge them. The last thing I want to say is I want to try to inspire all the teams and coaches. You're amazing. You are. You are a champion. And it doesn't have to be on the court or in the field. You are a champion because you're at Doane University. This is a place where you needed it to be. So you can reach your goals very easily. Don't ever give up. Keep fighting just keep fighting. Reach your goals. Thank you very much.
Joe, I'm just about done talking about you before we move on. This is a letter from your teammate and classmate, Mark Kenny. And Marta shared a few things from Mark. I just wanted to mention a few things. So, I don't want to duplicate what Marta said, but here's what Mark Kenny wrote to Joe, and I'll give this to you, Joe, when I'm done. First and foremost, congratulations on the ultimate honor of being inducted into the Doane University Athletic Hall of Fame. I know of no one more deserving of this honor than you. I can remember back in the fall of '74 when I first arrived on campus, transferring from North Idaho College. You were one of the first to welcome me to my new digs by showing me the ropes as how to get around campus. I felt right at home from the beginning, thanks to you. I have some fond memories, some funny memories of being a member of the Doane Tigers with you. I remember the first time the team met for their first, this is good stuff. I remember the first time the team met for their first practice in the fall of '74. We were in one of the classrooms in Fear Fieldhouse getting to know each other when in comes walking the most awe-inspiring, intimidating figure that I'd ever seen, Coach Bob Erickson. He walked into the classroom with a Wilson basketball under his arm and strolled to the front of the room. You could hear a pin drop when he started speaking. He calmly took the basketball from under his arm and said, "Gentlemen, what I'm holding in my hand is all the basketball knowledge that exists in the universe." Marta, she gets this. I've been coaching basketball for 25 years when he took a piece of chalk and filled in the last built circle, saying that this is how much basketball I know. Okay, that was Coach Erickson. He then put a dot on the ball and calmly said, gentlemen, that's how much you know. Welcome to Doane basketball. I see the basketball guys back here smiling. This was the beginning of what was to be a true team family. And so he talks about the series versus Hastings, okay? I'm going to skip through that because we've heard that, and about Joe getting a technical and Coach Erickson getting technicals and this and that. So at the end of the third game, which Doane won, Mark writes, to add insult to injury, that night, Coach took the team out to eat at a local restaurant in Hastings that was crowded with the hometown patrons to celebrate. There was someone performing that night with their guitar. When he asked for a request, Joe went up and asked if he could play Going to Kansas City by Wilbert Harrison. This is a true story. Joe went up and asked if he could play Going to Kansas City by Wilbert Harrison. As soon as he started singing, we suddenly found ourselves alone in the entire place. The 1976 Tigers basketball team lived up to Coach Erickson's philosophy. Have the desire to succeed, play to your potential, and work hard to improve. During all of this, it was Joe Wharton who was the glue that kept this team together. Good teams have good players. Great teams have chemistry. You, Joe, were the epitome of what a captain on a team should be. You made the players around you better because you led by example. I took this experience with me when I left Doane and applied it to my career in education and life in general. Joe, enjoy your well-deserved place in Doane athletics history. Remember that we are all teammates for life. Mark E. Kenny, class of 1976. Joe, this is for you. I'm going to give it to you. This is great stuff. This is awesome stuff. There you go. Mark could not be here. He wanted to be here, but he had some other obligations, but he sent me that letter, which is really quite good. Thank you, Joe. Congratulations. Former Doane basketball player Dan Lessowing called me a few days ago, and we discussed tonight's event. Our conversation was not necessarily back and forth, though. Rather, Dan spoke for about a half hour. I listened. Dan is here tonight to share some things about his teammate and friend, Mark Wragge. This is going to be fun. Dan, would you come forward? Dan, welcome back to Doane.
Cody told me I had 5, but judging by the last 4 speakers, I get like 35. So just sit down, relax, and enjoy whatever you're drinking. Because I guess I'm done when I'm done here. Okay, we're going to go back to 1988 and a great movie I love, Family Man. We're going to do a glimpse. And Mark, really, glimpse. Annette. Quinn, Grant, Ella, could you ever imagine? Seriously. No, really, great family, and a great man deserves a great family, and that's amazing, okay? Now we're going to go back to 1988. We're freshmen. We're at Freeze Hall. Have no clue why Coach Erickson we're lifting weights. No one lifts weights in 1988 except Brant Anthony, and he's not here tonight to demonstrate this. But we're going out, and Mark goes, hey, you want to ride? Sure. Yeah, wrong. I'm a city dude from Lincoln, and he's a country dude from Pierce. He's got like a Firebird. We're going down Thunder Road. Well, it's about a half mile, and at the end of that journey, I'm on the floorboard, crapping myself. And if you know Mark Wragge, that crazy laugh that no one likes until you like it, he's just laughing all the way there. And the car is fishtailing. So then we go lift weights, and he goes, "Hey, Leslie, you want to spot me?" I said, "Mark, you got a bar. There's no weights on it. The bar weighs more than you do." And then we get done, and he goes, "You want to ride back?" I said, "Hell no. I'm never, ever, ever riding with you ever again in my entire life. Ever." So, you know, Mark, I mean, just look at your teammates here. Look at all these people here to support you. I mean, I think being part of the Hall of Fame, what are we? I'm 55, and Dirk, John, you guys are what, 52, 53, Dubas, you're 54. What? I mean, 30 years later, look at all these people here. I think being in the Hall of Fame says more about who you were as a player and a teammate than what you actually did on the court. I mean, we can read all the stats, all the points you scored, all this, okay? But these people here supporting you 30 years later tells you who you were as a teammate and a person. And I think that's what makes you Hall of Fame. I really do. And, you know, and you need to thank Rich, because up until his senior year, Coach Erickson always thought we had to win with two big guys. Then all of a sudden, my senior year, we decided to play with a 6'5", 135-pound dude and a bunch of 6'2" dudes. And we won, and we did it. And Chris Dahl benefited, and boom. But, yeah, I mean, you need to thank Rich, because he showed you what a 6'4", unathletic, but skilled dude could do. And then, well, you were next up. So, and you continued that. But it was fun, because I always say that it's really sad now in today's college, because you see all these teammates show up, and in today's age in sports, I don't even know how you choose a Hall of Fame when you're one and done, and you're in 4 different schools. How do you even choose a Hall of Fame? But here, I mean, there's a connection. Whether you like the people all the time or didn't like them, but you know what? We were a team, and we played, and you know, and I think that's the best moments, and I think that's what Mark cherishes the most. I think he would trade the Hall of Fame just to be connected. And Mark, a couple more stories and I'm done. It won't be 30 minutes. Okay. It might be, but I don't know. But, you know, we're at a golf outing this summer. And somehow they put me on the cart with Mark. And Mark comes out about hole number 6. He goes, "Hey, Leslie, just make sure your golf bag's strapped down." I'm like, "Why?" "Well, halfway down hole 5, my golf bag is off, because Mark decided 3 years ago to unstrap everyone's golf bags. So now it's just a joke. If you're with Mark, they unstrap the bags and your bags fall off the cart halfway down the golf cart." And that was very irritating. But that's just Mark. We love him. He was a great player. He was always there. He played no defense. but he could, but he could score, and you know his teammates loved him. That's why we're all here because we supported him in 1992 and 3, and we still support him now. I can't. The best part was about 10 years ago. I was doing some AAU coaching, and Gwen and Grant, they moved to Crofton with Ella, so I never really got to coach her. Sorry. You probably would have been better if you would have stayed, but it's okay, though. It's all right. It's not my fault. It's blame your parents. Anyway, but for a whole summer, Mark and I traveled on a bus and stayed for like 10 days, 2 different times. And I had a room with him again at the age of like 45. And that same stupid laugh that you love and are annoyed by. But for 20 days, Mark and I were on a bus with Quinn, and then, but it was awesome. And that's why I think our friendship really, that's when you know you're friends. That's when you really know you have relationships when, you know, after 20 years, all of a sudden you're connected, and it was like yesterday. And kind of sitting back at the table with my former teammates, it's the same. It's like you haven't seen it for 20 years, but it's just like yesterday. I mean, it was just like a day ago that you've seen him and he can talk. And I think that's what Doane is. And that's what I love about a small college. That's what I love about Mark, because we're all pissed off at you, Mark. Lots of times. But then we all love you in the same moment. I mean, and if you don't believe me, ask Annette. Okay? But no, it's all great. And I got one Erickson story. It's my senior year. Oh, and people, this is about Mark, but I'm going to say one thing. I did pass the ball. I did. I threw an alley-oop the third game against Peru, and Mark dunked it, and then I broke my foot and had to miss 5 games. But I passed you an alley-oop, and you dunked it, right? Well, we're UNO, and Coach Erickson, he lasted 25 seconds in a game. I'm sitting on a bench. He said, huh? Boom. What? Boom. Gone. And for the entire UNO game, it was, where's Waldo? Because we had to stop the game 5 times to kick him out. Like, he's there. And these officials did not like him, so it was like, he's there. We had to stop the game, had to escort him out, and then he resurfaced again. 5 minutes later, had to stop the game because now he's up in the stands. And he's in the locker room. And he's over there. Anyway, Mark, hey, that group back there and your family, we're extremely proud of you. Very extremely proud of you. Congratulations. Is that good? Oh, I had no notes. This is not mine, it's yours.
Thanks, Les. Some of that's true, some of that's not true. All right, thank you, Dan, for that introduction. Thank you, Cody, for putting this banquet and ceremony together. You put in a lot of time and effort to make this special, and it shows. So thank you sincerely. Thank you also to Doane University for committing the resources for this event and for the Hall of Fame itself. Anthony, Susan, Zach, Jeremy, my fellow inductees, congratulations. I read your accomplishments, and I'm honored to be inducted alongside you tonight. Coaches and coaching in the 80s and 90s was no-nonsense style. My coach, our coach, Bob Erickson, was no different. He was a longtime men's basketball coach and AD for Doane, legendary coach for how hard his teams played, their tough defense, his outbursts and anger directed at officials, sometimes fans, sometimes his players, but never me. People always ask, did you like Coach Erickson? And my answer has always been yes, absolutely, for several reasons. First, he was in the later stages of his career in 91, 92, and 92, 93. And he recognized that our team, Mike Dierking, Marty Dubas, Dan Lesswing, my junior year, Dan Lesswing, Brent Bargan, my senior year, Todd Johnson and myself, as well as players off the bench, Pat Leach, Dave Cluthy. We were not his typical team. We were athletic, but smaller, good ball handlers, great shooters, fast. His typical teams were big, strong post players, 2 post players, as Lesswing said, great guards, and they played more deliberately. But Coach Erickson realized for us to be successful, we had to push the tempo and use our speed to full court zone press our opponents. He recognized our strengths, changed his typical style of play to match our skill set, and it worked. We were conference champions in 1992 and 93, the first one since 1976. The second reason I like Coach, he was demanding, and he got after you if you didn't do it his way. But I didn't mind that. In fact, I don't think any of us minded. Dierking, Dubas, Lesswing, Johnson, Bargan, Leach, Cluthy, we played harder. Third reason I always liked Coach is pretty obvious. My senior year, I was warming up during an October preseason practice. But before I continue with that story, I'm going to give you a little background information first. Our junior year, the year before, we were picked to finish last in the conference. This is 91, 92. Erickson had a bunch of seniors that had graduated. Dan Hall, Corey Cook, Ted Donlinger, Rich McGill, Brett Brown, Brad Anthony, Chad Fierbacher, big guys. They all graduated. Strong posts, players, forwards, good guards. There was nobody left. Like I said, we were picked to finish last in the conference, but we didn't. Coach changed it up. We finished third in the conference, surprised a lot of people. And we made it to the district final championship game in one game from the national tournament. Lesswing, Dubas, and myself that year, we averaged a lot of points each game. And so back to my favorite reason why I like Coach. He came up to me in a preseason practice, now my senior year. He walks out of the Honor D room, across the track, onto the basketball court. I'm shooting, warming up. He grabs the ball out of the net. Of course, I made it. I'm the only one warming up on that end of the court at the hoop. He walks up to me, he says, "Wragge?" Like, "Yeah." He says, "Every time you touch it this year, shoot it." That's all he said. Hands me the ball, and he walks off. So I did as he said. Who wouldn't like a coach like that? So, but I also fully realized I wouldn't be up here tonight if it weren't for my teammates. Every one of them is here tonight. After 33 years, they're all here tonight. Mike Dierking, our point guard, great defender, excellent court vision. He made 1,000,000 great full court passes, 3/4 court passes, half court passes to me sprinting up the floor. They all landed right in my hands. I laid them in for layups. Marty Dubas, he could take you off the bounce and finish at the rim or pull up in the lane or drop it off to me in the post. He could also shoot it from deep. He was quick, he was fast, he could run all day. Great shooter, great defender. Dan Lesswing, sharpshooter, left-handed assassin. You could not leave him alone. Defenses had to know where he was at all times. Kind of a no-nonsense guy, tells it like it is. Nobody can tell, right? Played with a lot of emotion. Coming back at you here, Dan. He gave the double bird to every Briarcliff fan and the entire student section, the entire length of the floor, his last game ever for Doane at Briarcliff. I mean, the full double bird, arms in the air, in your face, Briarcliff, put it where the sun don't shine. I'll remember that forever. Todd Johnson, teammate, silky smooth jump shot. I mean smooth. Could shoot the deep ball and nail the jumper. Undersized forward, playing against guys bigger than him. Also the trigger man for every fast break we had. His job was to get the ball out of the net and inbound it as fast as he could. Coach Erickson always says, if they score, that ball goes through the net, the opponent scores, do not let it hit the floor. He triggered them all. Brent Bargan, sadly, he's no longer with us. Great teammate, fun guy, but I was always glad he was on my team because he played with passion and emotion, and he would bring it. He guarded the other team's best player. We miss you, Brent. And Pat Leach, strong, very strong guard coming off the bench. All he wanted to do was set as many hard screens as he possibly could and run through as many guys who were trying to set screens as he possibly could. Another great guy, funny guy. Dave Cluthy, backup post player for me, came into the game, played hard when I needed a break. We had a lot of talent, but another reason we were successful is because we liked each other. I think the fact that all of us are here tonight is testimony to that. All but one of us was from a small Nebraska town. We had a lot in common. We got along with each other. We hung out on weekends, after practices. We took road trips together. We went hunting together. We played a lot of cards and van rides across Nebraska, Colorado, South Dakota, Iowa, and Kansas. We were and still are friends. My mom and her husband Galen are here tonight. My mom and Galen and my dad came to a lot of games. They worked full time and they made the long trip down from Pierce to Wednesday night games, the Saturday games, and went back to work the next day. It was always nice to look up in the stands and see you at the games. Thank you. I want to recognize my family. Annette, 31 years married. She's always been there to support me and encourage me. Thank you. My kids are here, Quinn, Grant, and Ella, as well as Grant's girlfriend, Lexi. Thank you for being here tonight. All three of my kids have played college basketball in the GPAC conference. I'm incredibly proud of them. My sister Amy and her husband Casey drove up from Kansas tonight. Thank you. My college roommate and good friend, Andy DeFries, is here tonight. I'm going to go off script here. Our ball boy is here tonight, too. Jonathan Papik. I hope you are... I hope you're not offended in your role today when I'm calling you a ball boy. So please don't be offended. I remember you standing behind that bench, and just to who you are today and your role today, I'm just like, oh my gosh. I see some other teammates here tonight that I haven't mentioned by name, and they're older than me, some are younger than me, and again, after 30 plus years, having you guys here tonight is what means the most to me. I appreciate the friendship. The honor tonight is incredible. I didn't expect it, but the friendships mean more. I'll wrap this up with a couple thoughts. We averaged 90 points a game our senior year. That's a lot of points. We played with tempo. We were all very good ball handlers. Not a lot of turnovers, a lot of made shots. We gave Coach Erickson his 500th career win. I will always remember that. We did it on the first try, too. They had the plaque made, and we got it right. I also remember opposing teams changing their warm-up routine to slow us down. Usually every team, about 7 minutes to go in warm-ups, they go down to the locker room for a couple minutes. We never did. Coach Erickson kept us out on the floor. We ran a 5-on-0 drill up and down the floor. One man, Todd Johnson would inbound to Dierking throw it ahead, get it back to Dierking takes a shot, go down the other way, the 2-man, back this way, the 3-man, back that way, the 4-man, then the 5-man, just a way to get to running. And we did that during warm-ups, and eventually other teams, our opponents, they wouldn't go down to the locker room. They just stayed on the floor so we could not run our 5-on-0 drill. They really thought that was going to slow us down. Talk about respect. The social media post of the Hall of Fame induction, great picture of me. A lot of hair, muscles on my arms. I'm up by the rim. Clearly I can jump, and yes, that is a 10-foot rim, not an 8-foot rim, as some of you suggested. Like I said, great photo. Thank you, Cody. However, I just want to note that there was color photography back then. Thank you, Cody Vance, for putting this together. Heartfelt thank you to my teammates and friends. This Hall of Fame induction wouldn't be possible without you. And to my family, I deeply appreciate all of you being here tonight. Celebrate with me. It means a lot. Thank you. I said a lot of nice things about my teammates and my family tonight. It is a cash bar, and I intend to drink for free.
Mark, congratulations. Proud of you. It is always great to have Matt Franzen on campus. Matt was named Doane's athletic director in July 2018, and prior to that, he was a head coach of the Tigers football program from 2007 to 2017, where he compiled a 65-49 record. He's now the head football coach at Hastings College. Matt played football at Doane from 1990 to 1993 and was a first-team NAIA All-American offensive lineman in 1993. The 1993 Nebraska-Iowa Athletic Conference Championship team was inducted into our Athletic Hall of Fame in September of 2023. Matt was a presenter here last year, is a presenter this year, and he'll probably be a presenter next year. We kidded about that beforehand. He will tell you about a young man who put Doane football back on the map. Matt, if you'd come forward.
All right, I will stay on script. First off, I'm happy to be back. Happy to give the induction comments tonight for Anthony Dunn, and congrats to all of the inductees as well. It's a pretty special honor. Anthony was a student athlete in both football and baseball. Okay, for obvious reasons, my role and relationship with Anthony, the introduction here is going to be fairly football centric. First off, most of these have opened with a bit of a roast, and this one will be no different. As Anthony has heard his entire life, his entire football life, he was always too short to play quarterback. Fortunately for us, and probably fortunately for Anthony as well, he wasn't athletic enough to play any other position in college football. So he was going to be a quarterback or it wasn't going to work. And let's just say it worked out really well. Anthony was a member of our staff's second recruiting class, and at that point in the program, we were still at the very beginning of a major building project. Anthony, and I don't think he knows this, was really tabbed to start for our team as a freshman before we ever met Anthony. I had a conversation with one of my coaching mentors and my offensive coordinator when I played here at Doane, Bob Stitt, who was the head coach at Colorado School of Mines, and he told me one of his biggest coaching mistakes was not starting Brad McClatchy when Brad McClatchy was a freshman. He waited until midway through the first game of Brad's sophomore year to finally start Brad. And Brad, a few years ago, was inducted into the Hall of Fame as a Doane quarterback. And when Bob Stitt told me that, I said at that point, okay, we're going to start a freshman this next year. We're going to build it with a freshman. I just don't know who it's going to be. We didn't necessarily have a rock-solid incumbent waiting in the wings coming back. In that year's recruiting process, we ranked our quarterbacks as a staff, and I remember odd things. Anthony, on our initial list, Anthony, the kid from Papio South, was ranked 6th. He was the 6th guy that we had tabbed on our list. For any of you who have coached in the small college ranks, the top 3 are already off the board before you ever even try to reach out, all right? So Anthony was probably the top guy, realistically, that we could have hoped for at that point. Baseball was also going to be a factor in the recruiting process. Anthony let me know early on that he would like to do both, if at all possible. I clearly remember, and Coach Jay does too, because we talked about it a little bit ago, meeting with Anthony, with Coach Jorgensen, and Anthony's parents right over in the admissions conference room on Anthony's official visit here and presenting the offer. And it was not, and this is not an insult at all to Anthony, it was not a hard recruiting process in his case. I think from the very beginning, it felt really good for him. It felt really good for us. Felt really good for his parents. And when that's the case in recruiting, it almost always works out. There's not going to be a lot of drama down the road because you had to promise certain things or whatever it may be. Now, I do want to mention what we did not see coming at that point was the +1 that was coming with Anthony. His girlfriend, his now wife, Claire, yes, that was one of the plus ones. But the one that really impacted the football program, who's sitting right over here, was wide receiver Jeremiah Saffold, who was in Anthony's class at Papio South and then was in Anthony's class for 4 years here at Doane. And he rewrote the record books along with Anthony for the next 4 years here in our offense. And we had a tremendous supporting cast, especially Anthony's senior year. One apology that I have, and Anthony and I have talked about this many times, is that I coached the quarterbacks my first few seasons here at Doane. That was not good. It was not good for me, and it was really not good for the football program, and it was not good for the quarterbacks. I was literally asking Anthony questions about quarterback play from the time he committed, and he was teaching me different things about how to throw the ball. Okay, so that's what they taught you at high school. Your high school quarterback coach played at UNO. All right, we'll run with that. He must have wondered what he'd gotten himself into at that point, but he stuck with us. We had our struggles for a bit, playing a young quarterback with a very young lineup for a couple of years. At one point in Anthony's sophomore year, the very first game, his backup quarterback after the game asked me if Anthony and I were friends because he couldn't understand why I didn't pull the plug on Anthony after throwing 3 interceptions in the first game. Well, we're not friends. No, we don't hang out. But what I didn't tell him was that I had seen enough glimpses of Anthony's best by that point that I knew where we were hopefully going. And even on a bad day, we had a better shot with Anthony than we had with anybody else. Anthony's third year made a really good move, and we hired an offensive coordinator, quarterback coach named Grant Mooring, and at that point, our offense officially graduated into college football. Anthony's arm was tailored to throwing the ball all around the yard. He could make all the throws. We still didn't win a lot of games that year, but he started his assault on the record books. That spring, the baseball team, you'll hear more about this, they won their first GPAC championship. And afterwards, when the first time I saw Anthony, I congratulated him on winning the conference championship. And his reply was simply, "Yes, now we need to win it in football." I thought he was nuts. But we had ourselves a team his senior year. A couple highlights from that year. We came back from down 10 with under 5 minutes left at homecoming against Midland. Anthony scratched up the winning touchdown play on the field, telling our running back, Tyler Davis, rest in peace, Tyler, to skip his blitz check out of the backfield and automatically just release. He released out of the backfield. Anthony threw him the ball standing alone in the end zone. He knew they weren't accounting for the running back all day, and he picked the perfect time to tell Tyler, just check down. Threw him the ball for the touchdown. Smart, simple football for the win. Anthony was and still is, as a coach, a very fiery competitor. He earned, I remember, there may have been multiple, but at least one unsportsmanlike penalty that senior year, in the Dakota Wesleyan game, when he threw a key touchdown pass late and turned to the Dakota Wesleyan sideline. And if you all remember Aaron Rodgers in his prime, the title belt, Anthony motioned the title belt to the entire Dakota Wesleyan sideline. The official threw the flag. We didn't know what had happened. And the official came over to tell me what had happened and called a flag on our unsportsmanlike on our quarterback. And what did he do? And he told me. He did what? Anyway, we won the game, so it was all okay. We didn't quite make the playoffs that year. It was still a field of 16. Now it's a field of 20. We finished 18th. But Anthony, at the end of the season, was named the GPAC Offensive Player of the Year, the Omaha World Herald State College Athlete of the Year. And between Anthony, the aforementioned Brad McClatchy, and the great Larry Green, who played for Coach Papik, those guys own the Doane football career record books. I have recruits ask to this day about playing dual sports in college. I let them know it's possible. It can happen. I always warn them. It usually lasts 1 year. Sometimes it lasts 2 years, and then kids usually migrate to one sport, and that's just the way it works. Usually, then I add, but there was this one guy. Anthony Dunn, welcome to the Hall of Fame.
I'm glad I didn't go after Zach and Susan because it'd be way up here and I'd have to bring it down. And I played quarterback somehow, so I do have lots of thanks, and obviously Cody does a great job running this thing. But I'm sure when Cody called you guys, he makes you feel like the family member that you haven't seen in a long time. And I actually missed the call, and you get all the spams, and I saw in the voicemail it was like Cody Vance, and I was like, what's he want? So I called him and was filled with gratitude and humility. But there's also a lot of other faces and that I want to say thanks to, and a lot of people on the fringes like Mr. Johnson and Carolyn and Marty and the McElravies. And so there's lots of people who make this place a special place. And so thanks for everybody that's here. The other inductees, Mr. Wragge, it's black and white, so I got to read about you, But honestly, the fact that your teammates are here, that's a really special deal. I was here with Susan and Zach, and to be honest with you, the football team and the baseball team, we were sort of chasing those programs. Coach Meyer and the volleyball's commitment to excellence in the fall. We tried to mirror it our junior year, to be honest. But those girls were committed. Coach Fye, Dunnigan, Hood, the track team, obviously still to this day, has just been the model of excellence. So, I am honored. It is really special for me as well to be going in with Coach Jay, someone who you go to battle with 200 times. It's a special deal. So last night we played a game, and I coached with Brandon Stennis, who played baseball here as well. And we're trying to get our kids to just believe and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, man, you got to be the best example for this. Like, how did you ever believe you could play 2 sports in college? And he's like, you must have just been really lucky to grow up in that environment and have people in your life believe in you. And he didn't know I had wrote my speech, but that's what the speech is about. So as I reminisced, it was all about the people who believed in me, starting with my parents, my brother. A lot of sacrifice. To be here, and to be honest with you, I have no idea how I'm here, but they sacrificed a lot. They set a model of discipline and work ethic that I've continued to this day and tried to model. As Coach Franzen said, my wife, who we went to high school with, and she came and played soccer at Doane, as well, has always been really my better half, and so thanks for making me better. I definitely don't look as your typical quarterback. But I actually owe it to Jeff Johnson, who's a Doane alum, and I want to make sure that he gets his credit. He said, I get done playing football at Papio South, and he's like, hey, I think you can go play 2 sports. And whether, he knew it or not, I had zero belief that I could at that moment. And through his belief, I was like, all right, well, I'll go listen to these. And to be honest with you, I think Jeremiah and I might have been in the same math class, and we're like, dude, we can just get out of math and go listen to these coaches come talk to us about recruiting. So let's do that instead of sitting math. And so we listen to all the different people, and we get into the recruiting thing. And I don't know that Coach Franzen knows this, but one of the first phone calls was Coach Stitt. So Coach Stitt calls me, says, hey, Anthony Dunn. I'm like, yeah. It's like, hey, you got a really good math ACT. You should come to Mines and play cornerback and study engineering. I said, well, Coach, there's 2 things wrong with that. 1, I don't play cornerback, and 2, I don't want to be an engineer. I want to be a teacher. He's like, it says on the roster you're 5'9". I said, I am. He said, oh, I think there's probably a place like Doane that would be good for you. So we revisited calling Coach Stitt our sophomore year because, I was throwing way too many interceptions. And Coach Frank's like, hey, give this guy a call. You need to learn how to take a sack probably and not force things. And so there's a couple Doane connections. But truth being told, Coach Franzen called me on a Christmas day. We sat in a recruiting meeting with Coach Jay and Coach Franzen, and they had a belief that they could turn 2 programs around and become conference champions. And truthfully, from that moment forward, I was pretty committed. So the best part about this has been able to connect with all my teammates. So to just recognize some of them, Coach Franzen moves to the offensive line, and I think he gets to coach probably the best offensive line in history. Conley, Cooks, Vitro, Rorick, Carmichael. I think that Lord knows how I saw over those dudes a lot of the time. And if you watched football for the first 3 years, you probably were wondering what I was looking at as well. So it's the back of some big tackles. But those dudes were absolute monsters on the line. Obviously, over here, Jeremiah Saffold, Tyrone Curry on the outside. But Jeremiah Saffold has always been my biggest fan. Unless you were at games from 2009 to 12, his mom, Tigers attack that quarterback. She was the loudest and biggest supporter for us. I'm sure you guys would remember her. So that is who Jeremiah is. He sent me a text probably 3 or 4 months ago, way before this. But he's always spoke life into me, and he's a great dude. And so very thankful for him. So the defensive side was held down by Coach Bessler, and we got the addition of Jeremiah Wallace, and I think him combining with Dalton Reba, but really Jeremiah and Jeremy Wallace and their swagger and their belief and their commitment really took our programs to new heights. So I was just fortunate, I think, to be a really small part of that. But I think we played with a unique toughness, togetherness, and it's thanks to those teammates that I had. In baseball, I got to play with 2 of the better hitters, if not 2 of the best hitters to come through Doane. Mike Albert would like to let the young guys know, and Coach O, if you want to remind them, we played in the dead bat era, so all of his stats would be really elevated and way more home runs, and he still has 1 million RBIs. But, our shortstop, Anthony Hinsey, I don't know how we got him because he hit like 800 as a senior in high school. I think maybe, like me, they thought he was too small or didn't throw hard enough or whatever it might be. But that dude got to play for 4 years and was phenomenal. Mike Albert, again, went to Papio South with me. And when you talk about commitment to excellence, as we're talking about, we were fueled by Mountain Dew and Call of Duty for sure in the dorms for a lot of years. But we were also fueled by BP and Butler. Not the indoor now and not out of that. But we were in the gym right here. And I'm throwing lots of BP to the good hitters. I'm throwing it. I'm not swinging it. But those dudes were very committed. And offensively, they took our program to new heights. But honestly, there's guys that love baseball, love working hard. Coach Engel, Elliott was on the bump with one of my other roommates, Chance Brule. And honestly, my current assistant, Brandon Stennis. But you guys were bulldogs on the bump. And I'm sure you guys know the perfect record that'll come up and those types of things, but those dudes were absolute dogs on the bump. And when they took the mound, I think we all believed we were going to win. So all of that's to say they were led by really good staffs. Coach talked about hiring Coach Mo, but Coach Bessler was tough as nails, and that defense was ferocious. Coach O still here holding it down, combined 500-plus wins or whatever that might be. And for maybe coaches in the room, you know, these guys stuck out some really tough couple of years. They never stopped believing in the program. They never stopped believing in where it was heading. They never stopped believing in their players. As Coach just told you, you know, he still played me through a couple interceptions. So that's what I've got. Two people in the room that I'd like to thank, Coach Jay. You know, after my freshman football year, he called me in. He said, hey, you know, I think we're going to start on JV and, you know, get you acclimated to baseball. You haven't been around. And I think it was one practice, to be honest. I did a little backhand at third, throw it across. Afterwards, he's like, hey, you know, we might have a spot for you playing on varsity. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's going to work out. And then the next year, he says, hey, after football, I think I want you to move to catcher. I had never caught. And, like, this isn't necessarily just, like, a skill that you can just, you know, get. And about 2 weeks in, I took a foul ball, and I was like, hey, Coach Jay, I can't do this anymore. And he looked me dead in the eye. He said, if you stay, you're going to be an all-conference catcher. I was like, well, I don't know. I got a choice, but let's do this thing. And it was his belief in me and commitment to that. I think that connection, Rick on the call, led to a really fun moment. You know, we're playing the defending national champs, the second time in regionals. Bases loaded. Michael Albert's at third base. One out. We're like, I'm on deck. Hey, let's squeeze. And he's like, squeeze? You know, we're not loud, but he's like, squeeze? I'm like, yeah. And so first pitch, signs, nothing. I'm like, oh, dude, he don't want to squeeze. All right, take a strike. Second pitch, doesn't call it. Ball. Third pitch, he calls it. Fortunately for me, Michael Albert steals home because they throw it in the dirt. I don't even have to bunt it. It's not my moment. Michael Albert stole home to win the game, which is awesome. Rick's on the call. It's an awesome moment for us. The one thing to note, and I don't know that he would tell you, but afterwards he's like, hey, I had watched them play before, and they pitched out in an 0-1 count with a guy on third. So he's like, that's why I didn't call it on the second pitch. And I think that attention to detail and the attention to detail from Coach Franzen were separating factors for those. So, Coach Franzen, you have completely changed my life. He hired me on to coach with him, and albeit, you know, only 3 months, completely transformed my life as far as a coach goes, and seeing really what it takes, the attention to detail. So, you know, the first staff meeting, Coach Franzen pulls up every practice ever down to the minute for Doane football. And I was like, oh my goodness, you keep all of this, you know? And I was only 26 or 7, still trying to figure it out. But that completely changed my life as far as where I'm at now and how I coach. And even, you know, the highs and lows of coaching, right? We win a Dakota Wesleyan game like 69 to something, and we lose the very next one to Concordia. And I remember a few weeks later, he's like, hey, you know, you got to respond. You got to respond tough. You know, like the guys are looking at you, and you can't take the winning and losing, you know, that hard. And so I've really tried to carry a lot of that with me and going from there. So obviously the football side, Coach already spoke to. But to everyone involved with these programs through my time here, we were part of something special. The amount of collective grit needed to persevere through some of these down years is immeasurable. The love we had for each other, being bonded through the highs and lows of a season and a career, is something no one can take away. Laughing about Coach Jay pulling out Mr. Potato Head, or Salau's senior speech about awkward moments with Coach Franzen, crying through the end of baseball, loss of a teammate, all our human experiences we shared, and quite frankly, those experiences are why being a part of a team is so special. So I'm very grateful to have shared that, and I'll leave you with this. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world to have had so many people believe in me, and for that belief to have elevated my life to new heights. So as a group of people, I hope you continue to believe in others and that we strive to prove the people who believe in us right. And as an institution, I hope Doane continues hiring people and recruiting people who do the same. This will be a special place forever. Thank you.
When I called Anthony, I said, Anthony, I know you're happy, but I said, what about Bill? Because I thought, Bill's going to be the happiest guy of everybody. So it's great to see you, my friend. It was always great to see you at our games. Former Doane volleyball coach Cindy Meyer was inducted into our Athletic Hall of Fame in 2014. During her coaching career at Doane, Cindy had the opportunity to coach several outstanding volleyball players, including the person who is being inducted tonight. In fact, Cindy began writing her script about Susan before I called Susan. We knew it was going to happen. Coach Cindy Meyer.
Why I coached is moments like this where I get to introduce Susan Rollman for induction into the Doane University Hall of Fame. I'm so excited for you and your family for this amazing honor. You are so deserving. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have coached you on the volleyball court. Susan, I recruited you because I saw so much athletic potential in you. You had the ability to keep improving your techniques each season. This allowed you to play at a higher level every year. I watched you mature into a leader on the court and within the team as one of our team captains. Your leadership was important to the team, playing in 3 national tournaments and winning the GPAC championship your senior year. Your skills and growth each year earned All-American honors all 4 seasons. You were our go-to player in the highest competitive moments. This ability to take over matches resulted in success with the team. One vivid memory I have of Susan was during warm-ups. She attacked with incredible force, and the ball headed towards the other side of the net with great speed. It didn't hit the floor, but instead hit our assistant coach, which was okay. She was standing right next to the net on the other side of the court, right in the head. It was a great reminder of how high your jump and reach was. Susan also was an amazing blocker. She had many bounce blocks where the ball hit the floor before the attacker did. Her skills were so solid. I want to thank all Susan's friends and family for the support you've given Susan on and off the court. Thank you also to the selection committee for seeing all the things in Susan that make her a wonderful choice for this award. Congratulations to Zack, Mark, Anthony, and Jeremy for also being part of this year's Hall of Fame class. Once again, Susan, I'm so thrilled you're receiving this honor. You are so very deserving.
Jokes. This is pretty incredible. The only gripe I have about Doane is that we couldn't find jerseys long enough. But that's neither here nor there. Thank you so much for this honor. Both Zach and I are truly humbled. Thank you, Coach. I definitely would not be here if it was not for you and your belief in me. There's not a lot of game situations, and we were joking about this at the table, that I remember. I don't remember a lot of opponents' faces, a lot of practices, which is strange, that stick out to me, but it's the behind the scenes that I do remember. I would not be the person I am today as a wife, mother, or coach if I would not have been a Doane Tiger. Sure, the youth camps are to have the skills available to those young girls, but Coach made it a point and a big part of camp to incorporate core principles as a part of their Doane experience. Having us players in small groups with the campers, talking them through those values, coachability, mental toughness, teamwork, to say a few. She was not afraid to have God be a part of the game, so a big shout out to Tammy Marvin for leading our pregame chapels. These things I am proud to say that I bring to coaching now. It isn't just the experience I bring, but more importantly, building up these girls in their faith, teaching core principles to the youth at camp, and creating an atmosphere of family within the team. I am not going to lie and say the whole experience was a walk in the park. Any of these inductees will most likely agree with me and admit that there were hardships, but it was the Doane experience that has made us better, stronger versions of ourselves, and a more humble mentality that we can exude to our families and the ones around us. I know Coach Phi will say that I probably wasn't the easiest to coach at times in track, when complaining about having to train in the rain that one practice that he never lets me forget, for multis. But those times that were hard or where I faltered, I can now use as examples of how to be better and how to push through, letting our kids and my teams know that no one is perfect. In order to reach your goals, you have to go through those hardships to come out on the brighter side. I just want to thank everyone in the room tonight that have come to support us, and everyone, this is amazing. Especially, like Anthony said, the people that have their teams here, that's pretty incredible. I love that. My parents, I believe, only missed the preseason travel tournaments. Other than that, they got great use of that old Garmin, which is not around anymore, I don't think. But I'm traveling all around to nationals, Sioux City, everything. It's pretty incredible. Thanks to my sister Linda and her family for being my biggest fans since high school. And a special shout out to fellow Hall of Famer Jared Olson, my brother-in-law, who could not be here tonight, but he was a big part of getting me on Coach Meyer's radar. I would be crazy to not literally thank this place for being the place I found the person I can share life with and to proudly be a part of history with at Doane. Lastly, and most important, I want to give credit to God. My, how things would be different if he did not have my life written to come here. Congrats to all the other inductees, all well-deserved. Thank you. Go Tigers.
So I called Susan on her cell phone at Archangel's Catholic School in Humphrey. And as it's been indicated, this is the first Doane Athletic Hall of Fame ceremony where we have inducted a married couple. When I called Susan that day to inform her that we had chosen her for induction, I said, "Bring Zach along, because he's being inducted too." Those phone calls are always fun. Former Doane throws coach Dave Dunnigan was inducted into our Athletic Hall of Fame in 2015. He had a tremendous impact on our next inductee. Donnie, if you would come forward.
Good to see everybody. As I look out across here, I noticed that Cindy didn't take very long. Susan didn't take very long, so I've got plenty of time. I went to the Cody Vance School of Announcing. I'd like to thank you, Cody. As I look out here, I want to say congratulations to the inductees. Where'd Wragge go? He went to the restroom. We've got Zack and Susan, all from northeast Nebraska. Humphrey, Columbus, Pierce. Must have been something in the water up there. It didn't get to Papillion. Ran out before it got down there. Sorry, Anthony, I didn't mean to pick on you. I remember when I was recruiting Zack. I knew Zack's high school coach fairly well. He was my go-to for buffets. Danny Steiner knew where every buffet in the state was. He planned his trips around buffets. Oh, speaking of buffets, I spent an awful lot of time thinning down so that I could look like the basketball team. And they all showed up looking like me. I can't figure out what happened. But Dan planned his trips around going to buffets. He would go from Columbus to the casino in Council Bluffs to Lincoln for a track meet, which I could never figure out, but that was the way he thought, to get to the closest buffet. So I called Dan. I said, I see this kid from up there is doing pretty well. I said, what do you think? And he goes, oh, Dave, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? He's throwing pretty well. I said, I'll come up and visit with you in Omaha. Zack was throwing at a meetup in Omaha, so I went up to Omaha, and I said, Dan, what's the story? And he goes, well, he can't spin. I said, he's a discus thrower. What do you mean he can't spin? He says, he can't spin. I said, well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to teach him. He goes, I've tried. So I said, okay, I'll take a look at him. He's got some pretty good marks. So at this meet, he's warming up. He's 6'7", got long arms. Looks good. Gets in the ring. Dan was right. He couldn't spin, but he could half turn. He did a half turn in the meet through 180 feet. It didn't get over 10 feet off the ground. I went, holy crap, this guy can do something. I said, I hope he never learns to spin or he won't be down here. He'll be somewhere else. So we get him down here. He has a pretty good career. You guys can see his stats in there. I think he went to the Mark Wragge School of Strength Training. I think he might have put a plate or two on, but not just had the bar. But he was the strongest weak man I've ever seen. Yeah, threw farther than I had guys that could outlift him by a long ways. Couldn't throw near what he could. Never knew how he did it. Never could figure out. I just figured it was another case of superior coaching overcoming a total lack of physical ability. The only thing wrong with that philosophy is if you take credit for that, you have to take credit for all the bad ones too. I didn't want to do that. But he had a pretty good career except for one meet. We had one conference meet where Coach Fye and I must have had a miscommunication. I think Coach Fye must have told him that he'd entered Zack in the women's high jump. Because at the conference meet, you have to check in to your first event or you're scratched from the rest of the meet. The first event was the hammer throw. At Concordia, it's down about 3 fields, and there's giant hills in between. I'm down there, and the coach from Concordia came up and he goes, is Lindsley checking in? And I went, I didn't look around. Is he not here? And he goes, he hasn't checked in yet. So I'm looking at the kids, and they're all going. I said, where is he? He said, he's up at the high jump. Yeah, Susan. He's up at the high jump. And I said, oh my. So now I've got to run up these 2 hills. And this is before the new me. This is 290 pounds going up these 2 hills, over the next hill. See him laying down on the high jump apron. I went. He got checked in and everything was okay. And I think that they both did okay. I don't know. Took me about 3 months in the hospital for that coronary I had, because he was only worth about 30 points at the conference meet at that point. But no, that was, by and large, we had a pretty good deal. I remember watching one of his throws. Unfortunately, it was a foul, but it landed on the 200-foot line at Concordia. I still don't know how you fouled that. Well, I know. I understand that. I understand that. Ready to come up? By the way, Anthony, how did you ever see around Carmichael's big backside?
Well, for the for the sake of time, I'll make this quick. Hi, I'm Zach. Thanks for coming. See you guys. No, just joking. You're stuck with me for, at least 5 minutes. First off, I want to say thank you to everyone that came out tonight to support all of us and our induction to the Doane Hall of Fame. To my fellow inductees, congratulations on your success. You all deserved it. Please bear with me. It's been 15 years since I took my intro to public speaking class at Doane. So if my speech sucks, blame it on them. I was given a great opportunity to stand up here in front of you today. Now, I could stand here and ramble on about my success, my hard work, my trials, my errors, and personal growth. Well, as tough as it was, I decided to take the high road and not talk solely about myself. When I learned about the nomination about 2 months ago and started preparing for this speech, my mind kept reverting back to my days in sports and reminiscing on all my past experiences. It's funny the things that come back to you, the details you forget about, the moments you forget about, the key things that make you who you are as an athlete. I almost didn't even go out for track, believe it or not. I thought baseball was a much cooler sport. The year was 2006. It was my freshman year of high school. It was the night before baseball tryouts. I decided that I was going to go out for track, that I wasn't going to go out for track, that I wanted to do baseball. It was late that night and the phone started ringing. My mom answered and then looks at me and says, "It's for you." It was the high school throws coach. He had found out that I was going to go out for baseball and not track. After a little chit-chat, he finally cut to the point and said, "You know, anyone can play baseball, but not everyone can throw a discus and throw it far. Your future is in track, not baseball." I am forever grateful that Coach Steiner called me that night and single-handedly changed the course of my life. That phone call opened up the doors to so many possibilities and experiences. That's the thing about being an athlete. To me, I don't really remember all the competitors, games played, or track meets, or every training session. I remember the people most. I remember skipping, studying the night before finals with some of the track guys and almost getting arrested for pulling people behind my pickup on a sled through campus. I remember trying to throw my back out, flipping a damn tractor tire with added weights to it. I remember Dunny laughing at us when we were about to puke because he thought it would be funny to make a bunch of fat asses run the cross-country course. I remember sleeping on a discus ring because that same a-hole decided to make us have a mandatory 7 a.m. practice the morning of stop day. I remember saving the money that Coach Phi would give us for track meets and buying beer with it when we would get home because we were that broke. And I especially remember walking 4 miles one way to get a case of beer at a Walmart at Outdoor Nationals with one of my best friends, Darren, and walking back and passing by Cody Vance, who proceeded to give us a nod of approval. To become a successful athlete in any sport, it doesn't just happen by chance. It takes faith, courage, dedication, and discipline, and most importantly, support. It starts with a mom signing you up for youth sports, scheduling every practice and game around their schedule, and driving 1,000,000 miles to get you there. It's them tying the shoelaces because you still can't figure out what bunny ears are. The endless loads of laundry and bottles of shout, the nonstop grocery runs because you eat all the food in one sitting, the working 2 jobs to afford new shoes so you have a new pair every year. It's the hugs when you're down, the high fives when you're on cloud nine. It's the coaches that see something great in you when you can't see it yourself. It's your teammates pushing you better, lift more, compete harder. It's your aunts and your uncles, your brothers and your sisters, driving hours to cheer you on at your sporting events. Or a cousin going with you to Drake relays. It's your parents spending almost every week during season for 4 years, driving to every track meet or game you're in. It's the same parents willing to fly halfway across the country to watch you compete. It's the coach willing to drive you 8 hours to Colorado for a last chance meet. It's the love of your life bringing out the best in you, supporting you and pushing you to the best version of yourself. None of us would be who we are or where we are without the people around us. I am truly honored to be receiving this incredible nomination. I could not have done this on my own if it was not for my faith, my family, friends, and peers. I would like to end this little talk with a saying I recently heard. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is uncertain. Today is a gift. Today truly is a gift. Thank you.
So what happened that night in Marion, Indiana? The truth be told, so Zach and Darren were ahead of me. Like them, I was going to go get some alcohol. Dunn, I was actually going to the Bob Evans restaurant. Right. We had breakfast there. Anyway, so I had spotted this buffet, seriously, great buffet, and I saw Zach and Darren walking, and I convinced them to join me at the buffet, and they ate with me, and Doane credit card. It was good. So we had a great buffet. We had a lot of fun together that night, so that was awesome. Those are memories that I remember. When I joined our athletic department in August of 2009, Greg Heyer and I shared a section of the old Honor D room in Fear Fieldhouse. Our desks were separated by a large copy machine, and we were surrounded by trophies from many years prior. We later moved to the Haddock Center in the fall of 2010. Wherever our offices were, we worked together for the betterment of Doane athletics. Greg is a true Doane Tiger. He was a standout basketball player at Doane, and he was one of those several players in the Norfolk High School to Doane pipeline. Coach Ullman, Coach Erickson. And he later served as our director of athletics. Greg, welcome back to Doane. Come on up.
I used to do this a lot as athletic director, but I haven't done it for quite some time. I'll try to keep in mind that since we're going last, that the mind can absorb what the butt can tolerate, and I know we've all been in here quite some time. It is such a great honor to present Coach Jorgensen tonight. He was one of the best decisions, if not the best decision I ever made as athletic. And I hope you guys can all read the incredible athletic achievements that he received. But I want to tell you a little bit more of the rest of the story. I'll touch briefly on the coaching aspects. Like all great coaches, Coach Jorgensen had an incredible passion for the sport and for teaching it. And I remember going to some of the practices. And you know, there's an old saying in sports, good teams practice till they get it right. Great teams practice till they can't get it wrong. I remember a thought in my mind, and there's so many times it came into play in the game. I thought Coach Jorgensen took that a step further. I think he practiced until they didn't even remember how to get it wrong. He was a great teacher of the sport, and I always admired them about him and his passion. The Doane Tigers under Coach Jorgensen's leadership in baseball were never going to beat themselves. They didn't win every game, but if you were going to beat the Doane Tigers, you had to beat them. They would never beat yourself. And I think that played into that incredible season when 20-0 in conference. They just weren't going to beat themselves. And I thought about making this whole thing about what a great coach he was. But it really what I want to maybe leave you something that you can't just read in those bios. Coach Jorgensen had an impact far beyond the baseball program, and I hope after I get done that you might understand a little bit more about that. How many people here know that when Coach Jorgensen came to Doane? Raise your hand. How many people know that his main job was as an admissions counselor? Most of his pay was as an admissions counselor. And his beautiful wife, Jen, those had to be some hellacious days, you know, because Coach Jorgensen never did anything halfway. I'm sure he put everything into being an admissions counselor, but he also put everything into being a baseball coach. And when I was athletic director at that time, one of my goals was to have all of our coaches be full-time. And I always felt that the coaches were the stars of the show. that if I could hire or retain the best coaches, and there's several of them here, Coach Pye, Coach Meyer. I did hire Coach Franzen, and shout out to Coach Franzen. I mean, he inherited a mess. I don't like to focus on the negative, but he inherited a mess. And he brought this program back, the football program back with athletes like like Anthony Dunn. And, you know, that was a big undertaking he took. We were down to like 30 or 40 football players. And, you know, that took a tremendous amount of effort on his part. But I always felt if I hired the best coaches or retained them, that I was going to be successful as an athletic director and that our teams were going to be successful. And I want to tell you all the ways. You know, the other philosophy that I had, and I think Roger Hughes, the college, or the university, excuse me, is in great hands because you understand. And athletic vice president for athletics, you'll understand what I'm going to say here. It makes it a heck of a lot easier. You obviously have administrators here, former football coach at Princeton, one of the most celebrated academic institutions. Not everyone in the college or university setting is always happy when sports teams do well. But I'm going to tell you ways that Coach Jorgensen made the whole campus community happy. I had some very simple goals, and basically my philosophy was, coaches, if you take care of this institution, the institution will take care of you. Coach Jorgensen and I had that conversation, and he took it on faith. Remember, he was hired mainly as an admissions counselor. But he earned through a number of things, but I always said it. Set simple goals for the coaches and hire the right people, they'll get it done. Meet your enrollment goals, run your program within your budget, run a values-based program, and win. Coach Jorgensen, easiest reviews or easiest performance reviews ever. Exceeds expectations, exceeds expectations, exceeds expectations. Everything I ask of you, you did. And I'll give you a few examples. Meet enrollment goals. Coach Jorgensen recruited, the team greatly expanded to the point where we were running multiple JV teams. But he also recruited people that were good fits for Doane. And so we got to where we had really good players on the baseball team. And so some excellent players, they were never going to make varsity. But they stayed because he was recruiting people to the college that were good fits for the college. He understood that really well. So the vice president for admissions was happy. He was also ran values-based programs when didn't matter if it was his best player or his worst player. If they made a mistake on campus, as young men sometimes do, you know, he had team rules. It didn't matter if biggest game of the year, best player, worst player, there were going to be consequences. So the VP for Student Life was very happy with Coach Jorgensen. He ran his program within his budget. I always remember, you can see right there, our baseball team had the greatest swag ever. But you know what? He didn't ask the college to pay for that. He found innovative ways to raise money, often involving the parents or friends of the players back home, and he got them really cool stuff, and they looked great walking around campus. So the VP for finance was happy. The VP for advancement was happy because he wasn't going to the local businesses. He found ways to raise money and to elevate his program. And I don't remember the exact timing, but because he was doing everything right, when I asked that, hey, I think Coach Jorgensen deserves to be a full-time coach, the college was more than happy to do that. But it wasn't just because he was a great baseball coach. It was more because he got the whole thing. He got the whole picture that he took care of the institution took care of him. And I think these gentlemen over here would say, if you have coaches with that attitude, great things are going to happen. So I really thank Coach Jorgensen for all that, and I, getting back just to the athletic things, doing the right thing consistently, showing up, trusting. That's what resulted in that incredible 20-0 season. And I remember that day out at the baseball field and the electric atmosphere. And people forget we were playing Midland at the time, and they had a great team that year. It was the way sports should come down to. We were 18-0, they were 16-2. And so, with 2 games left in the conference season, if we don't win those games or they sweep us 2-0, there goes a great season. And Elliot Engel, you pitched one of those games. And we not only won, once we won one game, we were going to be conference champs. But we won both of them, and we completed that magical season of never losing a game. And that's, I guess, what I want to leave you with is that everyone remembers that, and that's what gets you into the Doane Hall of Fame. But that's not how it went down. It was the years of hard work leading up to that, taking care of the school taking care of them, taking care of baseball, and taking care of Coach Jorgensen. Coach Meyer and Coach Pye, they know that. They've taken care of the school for a long time. And when you do that, the school will take care of you. So without further ado, thank you, Coach Jorgensen. And I guess one more thing. There were a number of other positions in the athletic department at that time that were part-time. And this is where his impact on, the cross-country coach was part-time. He was mainly an athletic trainer. But because the softball coach, the soccer programs, my goal was to get all of the head coaches to be full-time, but because Coach Jorgensen was such a great success, then those dominoes started to fall for the other sports programs as well. And I don't think maybe if Coach Jorgensen's ears weren't ringing at that time, they should have been, because everyone was happy. Making Coach Jorgensen full-time was great for the school. It was great for the baseball program. And all I had to do when softball came up was worked out pretty good with Coach Jorgensen. Let's try it with softball. And so you had a lasting impact on this athletic department far beyond your own sports. And we all stand on the shoulders of those that came before us. So Josh, Coach Oltmans is doing a great job, but I know he knows he's standing on Coach Jorgensen's shoulders. So thank you. Great to be back.
Getting old and don't have the getting old and don't have the bifocals. So, again, thank you very much to Doane and Cody and Rick for putting this on. It's obviously a great honor, and it's great to be back. And congratulations to the inductees. So well deserved. As a coach, obviously, it's a great appreciation to see your commitment to excellence as players, having had a chance to coach so many great players. You just love to see that being appreciated. So congratulations. Trying to get through this quick and try not to cry too much. But I do want to make a special congratulations to Anthony. With all respect to the inductees, there's no one more deserving than you. Again, humbled to have coached you, and you made me a better person, and you made me a better coach. Obviously a phenomenal player, but equally as good as a person, so congratulations. When Cody first called me, besides the mental hula loops you go through in your mind, oh man, I got to do a speech. I don't want to do a speech. I haven't given a speech in 10 years. Can I yell? Probably can't yell. I'll do a speech to the guys. Maybe I can talk to the team. Nope, got to do a speech. What am I going to do a speech about? Baseball guys, too much time to think in our game. So we'll see how this goes. The main theme that kept coming up was thank you. And though it may be my name on the plaque, I'm thankful to be able to take this time to recognize the people that deserve the recognition that formed the journey that led to this point. Because it truly takes a team to build a tradition. Number one, first and foremost, I want to thank my wife, Jennifer. As they say, if you know, you know. So you may be hearing that name a lot tonight. And since I had a dream a couple nights ago that I didn't mention her at all, we're going to check that box pretty quick. More to come. Next, I'd like to thank my friends and family for making the trip with everything going on and everyone's busy schedule. Got quite a few nephews, as well as the financial commitment. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. Dad, thanks to Rick Schmucker, you were able to watch a lot of games online, so I'm glad you're able to be here. Thank you for your competitiveness, your intensity, and teaching us accountability. I also want to thank you for your work ethic and showing the stamina of doing what it takes to get the job done. Whatever it took, whenever it was needed, you would find a way. And lastly, I've always respected and admired how you're learning and going after the activities you like to do. Mom, who couldn't be here for health reasons, thank you for sharing your faith in God and the wisdom it holds. It gives everyone something bigger than themselves to rely on, especially when times are toughest. And you go through some tough times in coaching, for sure. I believe it was the foundation of my coaching, and I hope it showed. Thank you for teaching me there are no small roles, and for your willingness to think outside the box and see possibilities others might have missed. I think one of my strengths as a coach was my ability to find potentials in players that others may have overlooked, and I believe I got that from you. So thanks, Mom. Again, I'd like to thank my wife. Trey, you watching? Points, brother. Amy and Gabe, thank you for coming. And unfortunately for you two, you were some of my first recruits. Or Amy, my sister, she got the full Rampage Jackson one time at the YMCA. I'm truly sorry about that. And if you don't know, you might want to see that a meme. So, and Gabe, with him, younger brother, tried a little lighter approach. Keep in mind, he's almost 7 years younger than me. So the kid was probably 5 or 6, but I was so frustrated with his fielding and his hitting. I tried to sit him down and calmly say, you know, Gabe, you might not want to play Transformers as much as you do if you want to be good at sports. Pretty sure he looked at me like the rabbit from Secret Life of Pets. What? So you might say I was pretty intense as a coach from an early age. I won't tell you about the fall training camp I organized for the neighborhood kids when I was 12. Kid broke his arm. Sorry. During the first day of agility ladders. I don't think I coached football after that. To my high school coach, Les Pajari, thank you for coming. And thanks for your encouragement and sharing your passion for baseball. Living in northern Minnesota, you don't see a lot of paths to a career in baseball, so thank you for showing me the way. I've always enjoyed talking baseball. And being able to learn the pro game through your experiences. Speaking of pro ball, Trey, it's been an honor to be a part of your career, and I continue to value our friendship. Ted and Patty, thanks for trusting me to work with him. And Ted, you deserve your own Hall of Fame recognition from Norris for your vision and dedication to baseball, the baseball community. About 30 years ago, my coaching journey began, and Jen's been a part of it the whole way. Now, full disclosure, I told her what she was getting into. But as you can imagine, moving from Duluth, Minnesota to Minneapolis to Orange County, California, to McCook, Nebraska for $4,000, and then to Doane, there's so much more I could go into, but then I'd turn into a sobbing mess up here, and no one wants to see that. Greg, my man, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for believing in me, fighting for me behind the scenes, and thank you for being able to see the vision for what Doane baseball could become. You had the courage to give me the opportunity, and I'll be forever grateful. Thank you to Rick, the best and hardest working SID in the NAIA, if not all of college sports. I miss having an office next to you and talking sports. You're the best, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for your passion and dedication. Thank you to Tracy, Cindy, Cody, and Matt Franzen for your friendship and support during my time at Doane. As an outsider to Doane, so to speak, I still appreciate your support during my time here. Thank you to the staff at Doane as well. There are no small roles. Little things matter, especially when you're building, and I want to recognize the people like Carolyn Wieland in admissions who helped make it happen. To my assistant coaches, Jeff, Dean, CJ, Brock, Elliot, and others, thanks for your dedication, your buy-in, and trusting in the method of the madness. I continue to value our friendship and miss coaching with you guys. CJ will always have that first snowstorm meeting at Perkins, and that time where a JV guy in the field house somehow threw a ball straight into the air, busting a light. That was fun to explain to Ed and track. Which actually is a great segue into the indoor facility. Craig Coppersmith, thanks for sticking around. Mike Fossum was a big part of that as well, wasn't able to make it. And Frank Tyler, those were kind of the three main guys as part of the fundraising efforts for the indoor facility. Thanks for believing in the vision. And thanks for making it happen. I just think it's so important to understand that your support and commitment literally changed the quality of life for coaches, assistant coaches, players, and the facility elevated the program to a whole other level. So from starting with no roofs on the dugouts and storing rakes in the bathrooms, we've come a long ways. O-Dog, thanks for your dedication, trust, and buy-in, and having my back. I needed a guy to buy into my process and learn my system in order to get things rolling, get this thing rolling. Thanks for being the guy I needed when I needed it. From no college experience to unprecedented success here at Doane, I'm proud to be a part of your coaching journey and to be able to pass the torch to you to continue the tradition. Lastly, to all my players, thank you for making me a better coach and a better person. You guys made me a better person, and I'm humbled to have been a part of your success on and off the field. We achieved a lot of success on the field, but I've always been just as excited to see your success off the field. Each player was held to the same standards because I believed every player has the opportunity to be great on and off the field. To everyone that ever played at Doane, from JV to All-American, you all played a part in building and continuing the tradition of Doane baseball. I never took that lightly. Not everyone won a conference championship because winning can be very relative at times, but everyone has played a part in the success of the program on and off the field. Thank you for your unrelenting commitment to building the Doane baseball tradition. Thank you very much.
One last thing, and then I'll let you go. So Jeremy and I are emailing each other last week, and he asked the question, when are the Polads going to sell the Twins so they can be good again? So actually, they're playing pretty well, Jeremy, but I don't know how long that's going to last. Folks, this is awesome. Thank you for being here. As we conclude this portion of our special night, I would ask you give one last group round of applause to all of our inductees.